Question 466. The Consumer Recovery Account is funded by A. State Legislature, B. Real estate license fees, C. HUD, D. Charitable contributions. Correct answer is B. Real estate license fees. The Consumer Recovery Account enables persons who were defrauded by real estate licensees to recover some of those losses. A portion of the fees collected when real estate licenses are issued and renewed is deposited into this account. It is administered by the DRE. Question 467. In wood frame homes, the parallel boards that are used to support the load of the floor and the ceiling are called A. Rafters, B. Internal sheathing, C. Girders, D. Joists. Correct answer is D. Joists. In wood frame homes, joists are the horizontal structural members that support the floor and ceiling loads. They run parallel to each other and rest on beams or walls. Rafters are typically angled members that slope from the ridge of a roof down to the eaves, providing support for the roof structure. Sheathing is the layer of material, usually plywood or oriented strand board, that is attached to the exterior walls, internal walls and roof rafters of a house. It provides a surface for exterior siding and helps brace the frame against wind forces. Girders are larger beams that span long distances to support heavier loads than joists. They can be used to support floor joists, walls, or other structural elements. Question 468. A leasehold estate is A. Chattel real, B. Real property, C. Personal property, D. Both A and C. Correct answer is D. Both A and C. Chattel real is a legal term used to describe an interest in real property that is less than a freehold estate, ownership. Leasehold estates are considered chattel real because they are personal property interests that are carved out of real property. They have the characteristic of being movable or transferable, like other forms of personal property. While a leasehold estate grants the tenant the right to possess and use real property for a specific period, the lease itself is considered a personal property right. The tenant doesn't own the land or the building outright, they own a temporary right to use it according to the terms of the lease agreement. This right is treated as personal property. Therefore, a leasehold estate has characteristics of both chattel real, an interest in real property that is treated as personal property, and is legally classified as personal property. Question 469. Mrs. Johnson, a widow, dies, leaving a life estate in her home to her brother Ben and the remainder to her only son, David. Ben planned to move into the house. However, David was currently residing there and did not want to move out. Can David remain in the home even if Ben does not agree? A. Yes, since David was Mrs. Johnson's son. B. Yes, David was left a remainder, which means he is entitled to stay in one room of the house. C. No, David has no right to live there against Ben's wishes, until Ben dies. D. No, David has lost his right to ever live in the house. Correct answer is C. No, David has no right to live there against Ben's wishes, until Ben dies. Life estate gives Ben the right to possess and use the property during his lifetime. Remainder means David has a future interest in the property, but it doesn't give him the right to reside there against Ben's wishes. This means Ben has the right to live in the property, rent it out, or even sell it, although the sale proceeds would be divided with David, who holds the remainder interest. David's inheritance of the remainder simply means he becomes the full owner of the house once the life estate ends, when Ben passes away. David's options. 1. David can negotiate with Ben to potentially stay in the house by paying rent or coming to some other agreement. 2. David can choose to move out and wait until Ben's life estate ends to inherit the property. Question 470. Borrower Barry did not repay a secured loan as agreed, and lender Lawrence foreclosed by filing a lawsuit against Barry in the county court where the property was located. The court found in Lawrence's favor, issued a decree of foreclosure and ordered a sale of the property to be held to satisfy the debt. This is called a fire sale, b. sheriff's sale, c. foreclosure sale, d. deed sale. Correct answer is b. sheriff's sale. A sheriff's sale can be one way a foreclosure sale is conducted. The sheriff acts as the court's officer and carries out the sale according to the foreclosure decree. While the foreclosure is still pending, the borrower can still cure the default by paying the past due amount, plus legal fees, and regain the property. This is called reinstatement. Question 471. A historical society hires appraiser Andrew to gauge the value of its majestic domed meeting house, built in 1876. In applying the cost method of appraisal, Andrew is most likely to use the building's a. reproduction cost, b. replacement cost, c. both A and B. D. None of the above. Correct answer is b. replacement cost. Replacement cost is the current cost of building a property with utilities equal to the subject property, i.e. a building usable in the same way as the subject property. Reproduction cost relates to what it would cost to build an exact duplicate of the subject property at current prices. If the subject property is a new home, then reproduction cost and replacement cost may be the same. If, as in this case, the building is older and was elaborately constructed with expensive materials, reproduction cost is an unreliable indicator of value. Question 472. In order to be valid, a trust deed must include a provision requiring the trustor to a. keep the property in good repair, b. maintain insurance for property, c. remain current on all tax and assessment payments for the property, d. none of the above. Correct answer is d. none of the above. A trust deed typically includes 1. Identification of the parties involved, trustor, beneficiary, trustee. 2. Description of the property. 3. Loan amount and repayment terms. 4. Conditions of default, events that could trigger foreclosure. 5. Assignment of title, how title is held during the loan term. A trust deed serves as a security instrument for the lender. It doesn't generally dictate the borrower's maintenance or financial obligations related to the property. These responsibilities might be outlined elsewhere, such as in loan agreements or separate disclosures. Question 473. Which of the following most closely resembles the relationship between a seller and a broker? A. Broker and salesman, b. Trustee and beneficiary, c. Mortgager and mortgagee, d. Vendor and vendee. Correct answer is b. Trustee and beneficiary. The broker acts as the seller's agent, owing them fiduciary duties of loyalty, obedience, disclosure, confidentiality, accounting, and reasonable care. The trustee acts as an agent managing assets for the benefit of the beneficiary, also bound by strict fiduciary duties to act in the beneficiary's best interests. While the broker-salesman relationship, a. involves an agent acting for a principal, the broker. It's more of an employer-employee or independent contractor dynamic, and the fiduciary duties are ultimately owed to the seller, the broker's principal. Mortgager and mortgagee, c. is a debtor-creditor relationship with the property as security. It's lacking the same agency and fiduciary responsibilities aimed at representing the principal's best interests in a transaction. Vendor and vendee, d. are the two principals in a sale, acting in their own self-interest, albeit hopefully reaching a mutually agreeable transaction. Rather than one acting as an agent with fiduciary duties towards the other in the same way a broker acts for a seller or a trustee acts for a beneficiary. Therefore, considering the core element of a fiduciary duty where one party acts in the best interest of another, the broker acts as the seller's agent, The trustee-beneficiary relationship. B. Does indeed closely resemble the broker-seller relationship. Question 474. The major differences between the exclusive authorization and right to sell listing and the exclusive agency listing are A. With the exclusive agency listing, the broker is entitled to a commission even if the owner sells the property himself. B. With an exclusive authorization and right to sell listing, the broker is entitled to a commission even if the owner sells the property himself. C. With the exclusive agency listing, the broker is not entitled to a commission if the owner sells the property himself. D. Both B and C. Correct answer is D. Both B and C. 1. Exclusive authorization and right to sell listing. Under this type of listing agreement, the broker is entitled to a commission regardless of who sells the property during the listing period. This means even if the owner finds a buyer on their own, the broker is still owed a commission. 2. Exclusive agency listing. With this type of listing agreement, the broker is entitled to a commission if they or any other broker find a buyer for the property. However, if the owner finds a buyer themselves without the broker's assistance, the broker is not entitled to a commission. Therefore, the correct answer is D. Both B and C. Question 475. Which is the most accurate definition of a fee simple absolute? A. An estate for life. B. Highest and most complete type of land ownership. C. Estate for years. D. Defeasible fee. Correct answer is B. Highest and most complete type of land ownership. Estate for life grants someone the right to possess and use a property for their lifetime, or the lifetime of another designated person. A fee simple absolute conveys complete ownership, not limited to a lifespan. Estate for years refers to ownership for a specific period, like a lease agreement. A fee simple absolute grants ownership in perpetuity, forever. Defeasible fee is a type of ownership with conditions that could cause the estate to revert to the grantor or another party if specific events occur. A fee simple absolute has no such limitations. A fee simple absolute represents absolute ownership of land, so the owner may do whatever she chooses with the land. When an owner of a fee simple dies without a will, the land descends to the heirs.